Alright guys, this is Chatterbox Reviews, coming to you guys with a video ranking my top 10 TV episodes of 2023. Alright, so I took a little bit of a break the last couple months just because I've been pretty busy with other things as well, and also just not a whole lot of TV, and that's kind of a common trend, right? You know, with a lot of years, and this year is no exception, where November, December is kind of that, you know, kind of ugly times, right? Where there's usually like one or two kind of big shows that people are talking about, but nothing compared to, you know, the summertime, spring, fall for sure. Just not a lot of new releases and all that. So there wasn't a lot to cover anyways. And because I was so busy, I kind of fell behind on some shows. And that's why this video is just a couple weeks late now, because I wanted to catch up on a couple shows, specifically Heels and Dark Winds were two big ones, which, you know, you'll see in this video for sure. And I do want to obviously catch up on those and you know, make sure that I had seen everything, so that, you know, I could put something in these lists for sure, and end up, yeah, of course, both of them had really deserving episodes. So anyways, this will be the first of 3 videos here for the kind of year-end stuff, or maybe I guess 4 if you count my award show, which I'm already working on, so hopefully that'll be sometime in February probably. Just takes a long time to put that one together, but anyways. So I'll do my top 10 TV episodes this one, my top 5 TV shows, and then my most anticipated shows of the year, which, I don't know, that video is kind of looking tough right now because I'm not even sure. I mean, at least for the new shows. Returning shows, you know, I have quite a lot and quite a few I'm looking forward to. But for new shows, it's not looking great as of now. So anyways, we'll put that one together as well. So yeah, but love to hear your guys' thoughts on what some of your favorite episodes of TV were this year. I know, you know, nowadays with a lot of these shows, you know, on Netflix and these streaming platforms, and the shows just kind of get released all at once, right? And it's kind of this binge, right? Like they're almost created in order to binge them. And so it gets kind of hard to remember episodes and stuff like that. So I will say, with having said that, I think a lot of these episodes that are on this list are mainly from shows that are going to be week to week and that are a little bit more memorable. So if you have some of those shows, or if you did binge watch some shows and, you know, some episodes stuck out from there, you know, that does happen for sure. Yeah, let me know. Let me know some of your favorite episodes. And if you agree or disagree with my list, all that stuff, love to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you enjoyed the video, please do like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. So, without any further ado then, I do have a few honorable mentions here. I have like a number 11, and then the rest are kind of out of order, and then we'll get into my top 10. So, first we'll start with the out of order ones. I'll kind of count it down and then mention my 11. So, the first honorable mention is going to be a show called Sisters, and this was episode 1. I'm still not sure if this is a limited series, actually, so I guess we'll just call it season 1, episode 1 for now, and the title is They Fuck You Up, but of course it's starred out in the title, but anyways, I thought this episode was just a really great start to this one. So this is I believe it's a Crave original here in Canada. And of course, what drew me to it is Sarah Goldberg from, you know, Barry, right? You know, amazing in Barry. And so her and her close friend or, you know, creative partner, I'm forgetting her name now, but anyways, they collab. She's from Ireland, right? And so it's kind of an interesting, you know, duo here, right? And so they came together, collaborated on this comedy show, right? It's 6 episodes, and whereas, you know, the next few episodes they were not as good as this first one. I think the first one was definitely the best, but I thought there were some really great moments throughout the rest of the episodes. But this one really stood out because partially my expectations were just not that high for the show. Especially the trailer. I think they really did not do the show any favors with that trailer. I thought it was like, it wasn't very good, right? And so going into this first episode, and some of these jokes, especially the mother, I can't remember the actress again who plays the mother, but she was so good in some of these, you know, back and forth with Sarah Goldberg, and Sarah Goldberg is so good in this. I mean, she's playing pretty much, I would say, the same character as Barry. And so I think now, having seen her now in both things, I think it really is kind of indicative of the type of comedy that she's, into. So obviously, this is the approach that she's going to take again. And she nails it. Some of these lines back and forth, and her kind of playing the straight man, if you will, or the straight character, to these more kind of absurdist characters around her. I think it worked really well. So yeah, I thought it was a good first episode, and kind of good to set up the dynamic here. And like I said, some of the episodes kind of drag. The overall plot is maybe a little dragged out, of course, across the 6 episodes, but a good start here for sure. So yeah, wanted to shout that one out, because I know it's not, a big show, didn't gain a lot of popularity, but here in Canada, and then I guess it was, the Irish, they had it there in the UK. I'm not sure what service it was on, but yeah. So anyways, that's the first one. Okay, so the next then honorable mention is going to be The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness. So I know a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of lists, of course, of like the big outlets. They're going to have episode 3, right? Long time in their list of top 10 episodes and all that. You're not going to see that in my list. I thought it was a very good episode. I'm not going to say it was bad, but just with the overall, how it fits into the season, that's the part that I just didn't really connect to as much. Like, yes, as a standalone episode, it's great, but I don't know just how it fits into the season. It's kind of like one of those bottle episodes from The Walking Dead. I remember, back then people kind of, I don't want to say invented the term bottle episode, because it was definitely around before then, but became very popular with Walking Dead. And that's kind of what I thought of that episode. But anyways, having said that, I think this episode 1 is better, mainly just in the way that it contributes to the actual plot and the story of the season. And mainly, I would say the first, I can't remember exactly how long it is. I want to say 20 to 30 minutes, maybe, of this first episode. Spoilers, but of course it's based on the video game, but to the point where Pedro Pascal's Joel, right, his daughter, like his real daughter, before everything happened, where she gets shot, right? Up until that point, and then they kind of flash forward. But those first 20 to 30 minutes, I thought were amazing. I mean, the directing by Craig Mazin, really impressive. The writing, the acting as well, like his daughter and him. I just thought it was such a great sequence. And this is the sequence that we missed out on in The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, which was supposed to, they promised that was what that show was going to be. Of course, it kind of went off the rails later. But this is the sequence that I wanted, right? Is how does this all start, the zombie apocalypse? And so I really, really love that whole sequence. So that's the main reason why this episode is here. After that, the episode is still really great, but it doesn't quite reach that same level when you flash forward. But I just thought it was such a great development for Joel and showing that backstory. Whereas you could have done kind of the cliche thing of showing flashbacks here and there. And, of course, we see some of those later in the season. But just to have this whole elongated sequence to begin, I thought it was really great, really impressive stuff. And for Craig Mazin to direct that, coming from, mainly comedy and the Hangover movies, writing those, I mean, first of all, Chernobyl, right? He didn't direct any of those episodes, though, right? So the writing is not a surprise at this point, but the directing I thought was. So really great. Really great stuff. All right, so next honorable mention then is Yellow Jackets, Season 2, Episode 2, Edible Complex. This was by far the highlight for Season 2 of Yellow Jackets, and I'll talk about it as well in my Top 5 TV Shows video. But this episode was, to me, by far the best. I mean, this is really the turning point of the show, right? I mean, they've been teasing it up until this point about the cannibalism and, are they going to go there, and kind of teasing it, right? And this episode, again, little spoilers, but, they do it. They do it. They go there and they engage in this cannibalism. They have this big feast. I mean, that whole sequence with the feast, that's at least what I refer to it as. Just amazing. I mean, the choices that they make in the directing is just so unique. I mean, what other show is doing that? I mean, other shows would just, depict, okay, yeah, they're eating, the human flesh at that point, right? But this show is just so creative, right? They have all the girls at this, like, it looks like kind of a royal feast, and they're like at this nice dinner table, and they're wearing these dresses and, everything. And so it's kind of like this dream sequence thing, when in reality they're like in the wilderness, right? And they look like shit. They haven't eaten in like days or maybe even a month, right? And so it's just kind of this like heightened reality a little bit. And that's what the show has been, so good with, playing that and just towing that line with that tone. So I just thought, what a great sequence. So I had to highlight that episode. And to me, like I said, it's kind of embodies everything that Yellow Jackets did so well in this season. But, the season as a whole wasn't amazing, of course. But this was a really great episode. So I had to highlight that one. Okay, so then my number 11, the last honorable mention, and I mean, this one, like, literally just missed the top 10. I really would like to put it in, but it's Dark Winds, Season 2, Episode 1. I don't want to try to pronounce the title of that one, but, so we'll just leave it at that. But Season 2, Episode 1, what a great episode. I was really impressed with Chris Eyre's direction for this episode. Like, there was multiple shots in this one where I'm like, wow, like, that's really impressive stuff. So yeah, I was really blown away by some of the direction in this episode, and just great writing too, setting up kind of the plot here, introducing the villain for this season, really great, and of course the ending of the episode too, like a really great cliffhanger. Don't want to spoil too much, but Chi and Leopold getting kind of a gunfight there. So yeah, just a really great way to establish the season and start it, and also the whole beginning sequence too, with kind of like the flash. I guess it's the flash forward, right? Because then afterwards we say 6 days ago or 1 week ago, right? And then we kind of jump into the story before that. So really love that. I love that when shows do that, with that little kind of teaser where we have something that happens, days ahead, and then we kind of flashback. And so, I think they do it in like black and white too. So just some I thought really creative stuff from Dark Winds this season. And to me, it's quite a bit of a step up from season 1. And season 1 was in my top 5 TV shows of the year in 2022. So yeah, really, really impressed with this season of Dark Winds, and had to put that episode in there. I think it's the best out of the second season there. So anyways, that'll just do it then for all my honorable mentions. Let's get into the top 10. Alright, so at number 10 then, we have Beef, Episode 1, The Birds Don't Sing, They Screech in Pain. Pretty good title there. So I did review this episode on the channel, and I gave it a glowing review, and I still feel the same way about it. Had to put it in the top 10 here. Again, I think this is probably the best episode of the show. I feel like it was probably a couple too many episodes, or a few too many episodes for the season, but still really great season overall. You'll definitely see it in my awards video. Just really great stuff, and this first episode was just great. I mean, the comedy really landed, and it's just kind of showing this road rage incident, right? And it's like all this pent-up stuff going on in people's lives, and they just, in this moment, take it out on a random stranger, right? And they have no idea who each other is, right? And then, of course, this incident kind of connects them then for the season-long journey that we go on. And it's just such a great ending. Like, I just feel like they really went above the cliches of what the story could have been, and they just constantly subvert it, right? For what you think is going to happen, and then they go the other way. And I thought the ending of the episode is just so good, and, really kind of sets up for the kind of hijinks between Ali Wong and Stephen Yeun's characters, right, throughout the season, and what they're going to do to each other. So I just thought it was really great. Of course, the acting there is amazing from Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong. Just a really great episode, and packed a lot of stuff just in that premiere to kind of set things up. So yeah, one of the best series for sure of the year, and definitely had to highlight that episode there. Really impressed with that one. Okay, number 9 then is Justified, City Primeval, Episode 8, The Question. So, I will admit, obviously if I hadn't watched the original series of Justified and was not a huge, huge fan of the show, this episode maybe would not be in this list. But that is what it is. I am a huge fan. That's one of my favorite shows of all time now. Love Justified. So yeah, this one, the first half, I will say, I mean, completely, you know, outside of all the stuff I said, the first half of this episode is great to anybody. I think it's really, really well done, a really great kind of conclusion. And again, talking about subverting expectations, I think they really did a good job, because this whole season, this whole series really, we're setting up that confrontation, that final, kind of stare down or shootout between, Raylan Givens and Boyd Holbrook's, Clement Mansell, right? And they actually kind of subvert your expectations. I don't want to spoil too much, but, it doesn't go down how you would think, right? It's not this kind of all drawn out, dramatized shootout, right, between the two, and one just gets the better of the other. It's actually not that at all, right? It goes completely the opposite way, but it's so fitting to this story and the kind of stuff that we saw this season between Mansell and Raylan. So I thought it was good, right? It was good. Yes, you didn't get that whole big moment between them like you do in Justified, especially that finale, right, of the series between Boone and Raylan, right? But it's still really good, and I like the way that they did that. So the first half of the episode, really great. But the second half is what I was talking about. It's let's be honest, it's a lot of fan service. It is. Again, I gotta spoil this, but we get Walton Goggins back. We get Boyd back in the second half of the episode. And it's not just the cameo. Like, I really thought it's like, okay, once we see him, I thought we might just see the one scene of him, but it's like a pretty elongated sequence, maybe like 10 minutes of this episode that we see Boyd, and it's just amazing. And then other stuff, they bring back Winona as well. So just, again, it's fan service, but I think they did it really well. It could have been a lot worse, that's for sure, and just literally been these cameos of these characters, but it was more than that. It was really, really well done. So yeah, I have to give them credit for that. And of course, as a Justified fan, yeah, I'm gonna love it, and I had to put this episode on here. So yeah, really great end. And yeah, it does leave kind of the door open now with that ending. I'm not a huge fan of that kind of direction. I'm not sure that we need to see the kind of Boyd and Raylan thing again with Justified. We kind of played that whole plot out in the original series, and it ended so well. One of the best series finales and one of the best conclusions for a set of characters in a TV show I've ever seen. So I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go, but just for this series, what a great ending. And so, yeah, I had to put that ending in there, or that last episode there for sure. Okay. So, number 8 then, next is What We Do in the Shadows, Season 5, Episode 5, Local News. So this is the first of 2 Shadows episodes here. This one was just really great, and I specifically like the last 10 minutes of the episode are just like the whole episode is kind of setting up for this, right? So it's Nandor who talks to this, local reporter who's reporting on this, I believe it's like a sinkhole, right? They have a random sinkhole just on their street. And so Nandor, it's like, playing on this whole thing of these, random people being interviewed. And of course, there's hilarious stuff that just comes out of normal people on the street, right? Tons of these clips and memes and all that of these people, crazy people getting interviewed, and so it kind of plays on that, and of course putting Nandor in there as a vampire, it's hilarious. So what a great concept. And then, like I said, the whole episode's kind of setting up, right, that Nandor's in trouble. He thinks they leaked, or he leaked, that they're vampires to the world on this news station, and then but the whole episode is showing, like, nobody even caught the fact that they're vampires. No one even really cares, but they do, right? They think it's a huge thing. And so it just sets up that last 10-minute sequence where they just take matters in their own hands and try to, kidnap the news reporter and everything and take over the broadcast. Like, it's just so funny. It's really, really great kind of absurdist stuff. Some really great physical sequences as well in the direction. With seeing the news reporter right in the foreground, and in the background you just see the vampires like running around, and their car falls in the sinkhole and everything. So it's just really great. Really great job there with Local News. So yeah, I thought it was the second best episode of the season. Although we had some really great episodes this season for Shadows, and you'll definitely see that in my top 5 TV shows video as well. So yeah, really a great one there with local news, and yeah, not too plot heavy. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on. There was a little bit of stuff with Guillermo as well, with his whole becoming a vampire thing, or halfway in between at this point. But just in the main kind of sequences there with the news station, I thought that was really, really great. So, all right, next then at number 7 is going to be Heels, season 2, episode 4, Heavy Heads. I thought this was the best episode of Heels, and I will say, so like I said off the top, I had to catch up on Heels. Just got really busy around the time it came out, unfortunately, and boy, am I glad I did. This first half specifically of season 2, I thought was so impressive, like really exceeded my expectations for what this season of Heels was going to be. I thought it might be better than season 1, but it definitely is. It is definitely a better season than season 1. And like I said, this first half, with this conclusion of Heavy Heads in the 4th episode, what a great end to this episode. Like, just, it really gets you like to the edge of your seat. And it's like, a show about wrestling, right? And the kind of drama behind that, and this like small family that's running this and this community of people. But it was so like exhilarating and such a great payoff to this first half, the ending of the episode, and it just, you really want to watch that next one, right, in episode 5. So some really great stuff. Chris Bauer continues to really impress in this show. I mean, his commitment to this character and the writing for it, just amazing. Maybe probably even better in season 2, and I gave him my Best Supporting Actor award in 2021 for his performance. So yeah, I think he's even better this season, and it's just a really great plot line in this episode for him. Quite an emotional one, and of course Chris Bauer nails that element of the character too, whereas sometimes he almost just serves as the comedic relief. But this episode was really great, and then of course seeing Ace and Jack kind of mend that relationship was also really great. So yeah, can't say enough about Heels season 2. This would be the only episode from the season here on this list, but just a really great season. Like I said, the first half's really great. The second half does kind of lose its steam a little bit, but a really great ending as well. All right, so next at number 6 then is Succession, season 4, episode 9, Church and State. This is the first of 3 Succession episodes, and I forgot to mention this, but I do have a rule where I don't put, more than 3 episodes of any single show in here, because to be honest, there would probably be more than 3 Succession episodes in this list, and that's just boring, right? Just have the same, it's like, oh, what episode of Succession is next on the list? So I didn't want to do that, but this is the first of 3. There'll be 2 more. So this is Church and State. Logan's funeral, right? What a great episode, and like I said, it is the 3rd best episode to me of the season, but so great. I mean, just the kind of optics of them, of course it's their dad's funeral, they're emotional, and especially Roman, right, and this stuff, but it's all about the optics, right? That's all Succession has been about the whole time, and going into that kind of theme of the optics, what's the outside world going to think, right, with the company they have, and they're always concerned about that. And so of course they're concerned about that with this funeral, and what to say, the speech to give, and yeah, it's just really great. Again, balancing some great comedy, some comedic moments in this episode, which is kind of a dark, kind of emotional one with his funeral, and then, of course, on the other side, the emotional and the dramatic elements are there. Just really great stuff. And, obviously Roman, his speech, and, he gets up and he can't do it, even though he, prepares and all this stuff. Just Kieran Culkin, I mean, this is maybe his best episode of the season. He's great in Connor's Wedding as well, which you'll see later on this list. But this maybe is the best episode. I mean, he won Best Actor at the Emmys just a week ago now. So deserved. I mean, he was just really great. You'll probably see spoilers, a similar thing with my awards as well. I mean, he's just amazing. And in this episode, as Roman, what a great performance, and some great writing for that character the whole season, but specifically in this episode. So yeah, that's the first of 3 for Succession here. All right, so number 5 then is What We Do in the Shadows, season 5, episode 3, Pride Parade. This one, I have to say, is probably the biggest episode that Shadows has ever done. Maybe not, right? But it's definitely up there. there are so many plot points in this, and I did watch this earlier in the year, and I actually did kind of have to refresh my mind of like, what all happened in that episode again? I knew it was great, but I'm like, there was a lot of stuff in that, right? And so I did kind of refresh my mind a couple of days ago, and like, it's insane how much stuff they put in. Like, usually there's like, the one main plot of an like any other comedy, right? There's one main plot of the episode, and then we get one or two maybe subplots, right, with other characters in there, and that's kind of how the episode shapes up. This episode is like, there's one main plot, of course, of the Pride Parade, and neighbor Sean is running for comptroller in this election, and so he has to have this Pride Parade because the gay demographic is not really supporting him that much. Shocker there. And so that's kind of the main plot. But there are so many, like the subplot of Laszlo and his science experiments. There's one of Nandor, flying into space. And then, of course, Nadia and her doll. And then Colin kind of gets roped into that. And they, basically turn into, they're stuck in the same body, her and Colin. And it's just like, so that's like 4 subplots there. Guillermo as well is like trying to help with the science experiment. So all the characters are involved. All these subplots have such great payoff in the final sequence here when they actually like have the parade and everything. And I think it's such a great take on this, because this episode, it really could have been, really kind of heavy-handed with the whole Pride Parade and kind of leaning into that. But the way they do it, I just think is so great. I mean, it's not to the point where they make, too much fun of it, right, where it just becomes this kind of comedic thing and it's not even really about the Pride anymore. But like I said, it's also not too heavy-handed, and they're not afraid to kind of fit some laughs in there and kind of some more edgy kind of comedy in there about Pride and about the LGBTQ and all that. And they do a great job with having Sean, right, the neighbor, being kind of this ignorant, character, really, and kind of having him in there. And so he's kind of the source of a lot of that comedy. And I don't know, I just think it really works well. A really great episode. And like I said, it's probably just the biggest episode that they've done. There's just so much going on, so many laughs, just at every point in this episode. I just think the writing was just really great. I can't remember the writers now, but I think they just did such a good job with this episode. And like I said, I mean, you're handling kind of, a bit of a, usually the show doesn't lean into a lot of these kind of issues or these kind of like political things or whatever. But I think they did a great job, kind of leaning into that and making it really, really great. And to me, it's the best episode of Shadows for Season 5. I really liked it. So, yeah, I have to put that in my top 5 for sure. So, yeah. All right, so number 4 then. Next up is Righteous Gemstones, Season 3, Episode 7, Burn for Burn, Wound for Wound, Stripe for Stripe. Some of these episode titles are kind of ridiculous for Gemstones, but anyways, this is the best episode of Gemstones this season. I did my review for the season as well, if you're at all interested, but I did talk about this episode and that one too. What an amazing episode. Such a great payoff. I mean, this almost is like the de facto finale of the season, really. The next 2 episodes, yes, they do conclude, the overall story, but this one is like the big payoff episode where like the whole season story and all the stuff going on really comes to a head and kind of basically concludes at the end of this episode. And to me, it's just a really complete episode as well. That's another reason why it was the best, or, that it's on this list as well, is like from the very beginning, right? It's, Jesse and Calvin and Judy all get kidnapped at the very beginning of the episode. And it's almost this like self-contained arc throughout the whole episode. And then the conclusion, just some amazing physical comedy, the action that you kind of come to expect in Danny McBride shows, or at least in Gemstones for sure. Just amazing. The direction here is amazing. I believe Danny McBride directed this episode himself, so no surprise there. It's just awesome. Really awesome payoff, like I said. The action is there, the physical comedy, and just from a writing perspective, it's such a complete episode with a great self-contained arc. So, yeah, really have to highlight that. And it's too bad I don't have another episode of Gemstones on here. I really should, to be honest. Some really great ones this season, but yeah, that's the only one on the list, but really, really great. Really great. All right, so number 3 then, the next Succession one. So it's Succession, Season 4, Episode 8, America Decides. flawless episode. I mean, really, like, just an amazing episode about the election. So many meta things in here, right? Really, it really mirrors, right, real life stuff with the election. But in this case, it's kind of the behind the scenes that usually, we aren't privy to. We don't actually see this part. We see the news broadcast and stuff that they have in the episode, but we don't see the behind the scenes. And I just think it was such a great take on this, what these kind of really elite people, right, that are involved in these elections, what they do, what they're willing to do, where they're willing to go, and kind of these backdoor deals and all this stuff. Just such a fascinating episode, and some amazing comedy as well. Again, some more of that kind of dark humor where one of the voting places like catches a fire and explodes or something like that, and they don't have the votes counted. And so again, it's very this like meta stuff of like, this like could, like, it's really funny because it's absurd, but it like kind of could happen, right? Like, it's kind of borderline reality. And so it's just amazing job from the writers here with this one. And yeah, probably my second favorite episode of Succession this season, maybe even my favorite. But from an objective standpoint, obviously I think this next one is just on another level. But it was maybe my favorite, just my interest in politics and all that stuff. It was just so fascinating to watch this episode. And it really is a great job at building tension, too, with, like, you don't know where this episode is going to go. And then, of course, towards the end of it, the big kind of reveal of Shiv and her trying to hide that secret with Matsson and her kind of having ulterior motives to Roman and Kendall. And the tension that they build in those sequences, it's just unreal, like, just amazing stuff. So yeah, can't say enough good stuff about Succession, of course. Really great episode there. All right, number 2 then is going to be Barry, season 4, episode 8. Wow. A really great title for that one, with what happens in the episode. What an amazing finale of Barry. Yes, this season, I do think it's better than season 3, by the way. I think I enjoyed this season, like, more than some other people. Some people I saw online, like, hated this season. I don't agree with that, but, yeah, I definitely concede that, some parts of this season were a little bit, they kind of dragged on, and some kind of risky choices that they made in this season with Bill Hader, but this finale brought everything full circle, and there was only just one thing that I didn't really like, kind of a nitpick with this finale, but everything else, all the endings for these characters were like pitch perfect. And just, so first of all, there's 2 main sequences in this episode that I absolutely loved. It's the shootout sequence, right, towards the beginning of the episode with Noah Hank, and Fuchs, of course, is the Raven. That is just brilliant. I mean, just brilliant stuff. We get so many of these great kind of physical comedy or kind of action pieces in Barry each season, and this one maybe was the best of, like, any of the, maybe Ronnie Lilly is better, but it was up there in terms of, best of the series. It's just such a great sequence, so funny, so absurd. And then the sequence to end the episode is just brilliant. I mean, it's such great criticism of this kind of based on a true story and the way Hollywood handles these tragic events and makes them into a completely different narrative about the events. And of course, in this case, Gene basically catches the fall for all the things that Barry did. And it's like completely absurd because it's like, he did not have any involvement with that stuff, but everyone believes it, and then they make this movie, and the way that they actually screen the actual movie within the episode, it's just kind of this meta thing, and I don't know, I just thought it was really brilliant stuff and really encapsulated everything that Barry was so good with all the way through. So they really did a good job with this finale. Again, the season had some low points, but this finale, I thought, just such a great episode to tie things together. So, really great stuff. All right, my number 1 then, no surprise here. I mean, when I was making this list, I knew that this was going to be number 1 no matter what. It's Succession, season 4, episode 3, Connor's Wedding. This is one of the best episodes of TV I've seen in quite a while, I would say. Yeah, just amazing, right? The first few, even the first sequence of this episode before things kick off is really great. Like, some really great humor there with Logan and Roman and having to fire Jerry and him, being the typical Logan with Tom even getting on the plane and everything. And then everything falls out, right? Everything falls out. Tom calls the kids, and from there, it's just brilliant. I mean, the acting is on another level. The directing, I watched some behind the scenes, right, with Mark Mylod, and he was talking about kind of doing that kind of one take and really letting those actors kind of feel that moment and not being able to, you know, pan away from them. Like, they were in the camera, they were in the shot at all times, and so to kind of get these genuine reactions, and I think it was just brilliant. It really paid off, that choice. Because it's just so great, and it's so authentic. Like, they could have, you know, made it kind of melodramatic like some other shows would have with this event, but no. Like, you know, Kendall and Shiv are like, you know, on the phone with their dad, perhaps the last thing that they'll ever say to him, and they say, you know, I love you, but I can't forgive you. Like, it's such an authentic take on this where, like I said, like, yeah, the melodrama would be like, oh, no, and like, you know, them bawling and saying that they miss him, but he was an asshole to them a lot of the time, and he did some, you know, really terrible things to them, so they can't forgive him. And so, and as well, Roman's reaction with him being in denial, so authentic to that character. So, yeah, I just can't say enough about this episode. The directing, the writing, the acting, it's just like operating on another level here compared to anything else on TV, to me at least. And there's some good comedic beats too, here and there, but mainly a kind of dramatic, emotional episode. So yeah, really, really great. And then of course too, you know, there's gaming in this one. Like, there's just always people gaming, trying to see the future, trying to get a better position, more power, and we even see that in this episode with Tom and Greg a little bit too. So yeah, just everything that Succession does so well, they really captured in this episode. So there it is. That is my number one episode of the year. But anyways, that'll just about do it then for my list. Again, like I said on the top, love to hear your guys' thoughts on your favorite episodes of the year, any that stuck out to you. Love to hear your guys' thoughts and also your thoughts on my list. Have you seen some of these shows and episodes? Yeah, love to discuss with you guys in the comments. So anyways, that'll just about do it for this one. Please stay tuned then for my top 5 TV shows video and my awards video, and my most anticipated as well. That'll be coming soon. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this one, and we'll see you then in my next video.